On the morning of November 29, 1970, deep in Norway's Ice Valley near Bergen, a father and his two young daughters set out for a Sunday hike through a quiet forest trail. The area, known as Isdal, Death Valley, carried a dark reputation. Centuries ago, it had been a site where people ended their lives. More recently, climbers had fallen to their deaths along its steep ridges. But what they found that morning was far more disturbing. Lying among the cold rocks, just off the path, was the charred body of a woman. She was flat on her back, her arms curled upward in a boxer-like pose, a classic sign of death by fire. Her front was burned beyond recognition, but the back remained untouched by flame. Surrounding her were strange items: 2 plastic water bottles, a bottle of liquor, a spoon, a watch, and some jewelry, all carefully laid out. A packed lunch of burned bread crusts. There were no signs of struggle, no clear indication of what had happened. Every label had been removed from her belongings. There was no ID, no passport, not even a single piece of paper with her name on it. When the police arrived, the mystery only deepened. The woman had no known identity. Her fingerprints didn't match any in their system. She was estimated to be between 30 and 40 years old. Autopsy revealed that she had taken a massive overdose of sleeping pills, at least 50. 20 were still undigested in her stomach. The cause of death was determined to be carbon monoxide poisoning from the fire, combined with the overdose. Yet bruises were also found on her neck, possibly caused by a blow, suggesting foul play. There was no firewood, no matches, no lighter nearby. But the body had clearly burned. How? 2 days later, police found her suitcases at the Bergen railway station. Inside were even more bizarre clues: several wigs, multiple pairs of sunglasses, some with non-prescription lenses, cosmetics, brushes, a notepad filled with strange codes, and a collection of clothes, each with the brand labels carefully removed. Even the lining of the suitcase had been tampered with, as if someone had tried to hide something. The fingerprints on a pair of glasses confirmed the luggage belonged to the dead woman. A deeper investigation into the coded notebook revealed that it wasn't a cipher in the traditional sense, but a travel log. The woman had moved across Norway and Europe for months, using at least 9 different aliases. In hotels across the country, she had checked in as Genevieve Lancier, Claudia Tielt, Vera Schlossneck, and others. She gave various nationalities: Belgian, French, sometimes German. Hotel staff described her as elegant and well-dressed, but always distant. Some remembered her wearing wigs. Others said she spoke fluent French, German, and English, with an accent that was hard to place. She was a woman trying to blend in, but always keeping others at arm's length. One waiter remembered her asking about military activity in the area. Another claimed she'd asked specifically about Norwegian missile testing sites. These weren't tourist questions. They were targeted, precise, and strange, especially in 1970, at the height of the Cold War. At the time, Norway, a NATO country, was conducting secret weapons tests, including trials of the Penguin missile. Soviet spies had already been caught surveilling such activity along the Norwegian coast. Could she have been one of them? A spy operating under deep cover? The police tried to track her background, but every name she used was fake. No one reported her missing. No family came forward. No embassies made inquiries. Interpol was notified, but there were no matches in international databases. It was as if the woman had lived outside the system, intentionally. Eventually, the case stalled. In February 1971, with no new leads, she was buried in an unmarked grave in Bergen's Melendal Cemetery. The police placed her in a zinc coffin, in case she needed to be exhumed someday. Only a few officers attended. There was no service, no relatives, just silence. But the silence wouldn't last forever. Decades later, in 2016, Norwegian broadcaster NRK, along with the BBC, reopened the case through a podcast called Death in Ice Valley. Using modern forensic tools, they examined old evidence with fresh eyes. One of the most significant breakthroughs came from isotope testing on her teeth. The results suggested she had grown up in southern Germany or possibly the Balkans. Her dietary patterns and chemical traces pointed to a region near Nuremberg. Then came DNA. Her mitochondrial DNA, passed down from her mother's line, matched a rare lineage found in parts of Eastern Europe and Western Asia. She wasn't Scandinavian. She wasn't French or Belgian. Her entire identity had been a performance, meticulously crafted and fiercely protected. One man came forward during this renewed investigation. He claimed to have seen her days before her death. He had helped her carry her luggage to the Hotel Horteheimen. She told him she was a traveling antiques dealer from South Africa. He remembered her as elegant but tense. She smelled strongly of garlic and perfume. She was alone, but she seemed wary of being watched. When he offered more help, she declined coldly. He never saw her again. Theories exploded once more. Some believed she had taken her own life. Perhaps the aliases and wigs were symptoms of deep psychological trauma. Maybe the overdose was deliberate, a slow fade into oblivion. But if that were true, why would she set herself on fire? And where was the lighter or match? Others pointed to murder. The bruises on her neck, the deliberate arrangement of her belongings, the complete absence of any fire-starting tools, all pointed to a staged scene. Perhaps she was silenced. Perhaps someone wanted her erased. But the spy theory refused to die. She had used multiple identities. She had traveled strategically. She had asked about military testing. And her movements matched missile testing dates in Norway. Some even speculated that she was a double agent, perhaps exposed. Others believed she was caught in a shadow war between NATO and the Soviet bloc and eliminated when she became a liability. Former Norwegian intelligence officers later admitted they had monitored her separately from the police, but never shared what they knew. Why the secrecy? And why, even after 5 decades, has no country ever claimed her? Among her effects, one last detail still haunts investigators. A rubber boot found with a small trace of petrol. Not enough to be accidental. Just enough to suggest she was doused before being set alight. Today, more than 50 years later, the Isdal woman remains nameless. No one has come forward to identify her. Her fingerprints have been removed from Interpol systems. Her DNA has only led to distant, untraceable matches. She is a ghost in the archives. A life reduced to ashes and riddles. Her grave still draws visitors. Some leave flowers. Others leave notes that read, "We haven't forgotten you." Or, "Who were you?" The wind howls through Ice Valley, carrying with it a silence louder than screams. A silence filled with questions. A silence that, perhaps, will never be broken. She died as she lived, in shadows. And the truth, like her identity, remains buried. If you found this story as haunting and fascinating as we did, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more chilling true crime mysteries, forgotten legends, and strange stories from around the world. Your support helps us keep these whispers alive. We'll see you in the next story.